Sometimes you don't realize change that's happening around you. So they built this garage here at Princeton University because they've got a brand new soccer stadium here. And for all of my life, I had driven by here until they tore it down in 2020. There was the Princeton Observatory. And I didn't realize it was gone until I got here. And then I was like, oh, right, it's not here anymore. But I forgot because I didn't see them tearing it down. And then this went up real quick. So this has all been changed here. But in War of the Worlds, the first place they go to outside of that ballroom in New York City is they go to Princeton Observatory and they talk to the professor here. We are on Fitz-Randolph Drive, and the observatory was called the Fitz-Randolph Observatory. It sat here from 1934 until 2020, and then it was torn down to build, I think, this garage. It says online it was to build the stadium, but I remember it being on this side of the street. In the radio broadcast, they referred to it as the Princeton Observatory, and of course, there was an actor in the studio with Orson Welles pretending to be here. But yeah, this was one of the only real places that they mention, because you'll see they get a lot of the things mixed up. On our way, 3.9 miles to Grover's Mill, New Jersey. I'll tell you all about Grover's Mill. That's where the aliens landed. In the radio broadcast, they say it's 10 or 11 miles away, which is not true. But Orson Welles had never visited, he may have visited Princeton. That sounds like a place he would have gone, but he had never visited Grover's Mill, and I don't think he ever did in his lifetime. Never read anything that he did. He just took a pin and put it on the map in an area where he was like, well, this is close enough to Princeton University and Trenton and Newark that I can, pinpoint all this and say it's not that far from New York City. So that's why he chose it. It's just a random choosing, but it's a town that I grew up in. So we're gonna go over there. I'll tell you all about Grover's Mill, New Jersey. A lot of fun.
In a few moments, we will take you to the Princeton Observatory at Princeton, New Jersey. We return you until then to the music of Ramon Raquello and his orchestra.
Here's the historic sign, which talks about how Grover Cleveland and Woodrow Wilson frequented this, but this was named after a man named Thomas A. Grover, I believe, and he owned a lot of the land here. And they mention here that there was a trolley route and that Orson Welles' 1938 The War of the Worlds radio play happened here. This is the mill. This is Grover's Mill Pond. This is the Grover's Mill. And then over here, this building, we'll walk up and take a look at it, is from the 1700s. This is the building you usually see when people show Grover's Mill. Now really, Grover's Mill is just the name of a small little section of the town of West Windsor. For some reason, West Windsor, every area of it is named after something else. We're going to be going to 3 different spots in West Windsor. None of them consider themselves West Windsor. This is the first set of spots are right here at Grover's Mill. So yeah, this building built in the 1700s. So this definitely would have been here at the time when there was or was not public hysteria. Much has been made more recently about whether people really did freak out, and to some degree they did. Apparently the police department got tons of calls from people trying to confirm that it wasn't real. A lot of people drove into this area to see what the heck was happening, having heard that there was a meteor that had landed. But I think the overall idea that the entire country panicked is not true. Historical records show that it just wasn't the most popular radio broadcast of the night, but it's by far the most fondly remembered one. It was 85 years ago, October 30th, 1938, and it's still remembered and listened to by people today. We've made it to Grover's Mill Pond. This is Van Nest Park. I come here quite often, actually. My son and I like to go fishing here. There's some people fishing right now. We've pulled a couple fish out of there, not too many, but I've seen other people far more successful than us. And they have a relief sculpture up here, which we're going to take a look at, dedicated to War of the Worlds. Apparently, War of the Worlds wasn't super fondly remembered by the area until the late 80s when they had the anniversary. So for the 50th anniversary, 1988, we sang a song at school about it. We had a parade that went right down the street. We had like a big event at night. It was a huge, huge happening here.
Do you guys know what Martians look like?
No.
Not any idea. You don't think they look like your teacher either?
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe, but you're not sure. You know, we're in luck, though. The kids at Dutch Neck Elementary know what they look like. So basically, this is what Martians look like, huh?
Yeah.
The ground is super wet here. I feel like I'm gonna come away with muddy shoes, which is not my goal. What's interesting is a lot of people I've seen, every time I come here, I see somebody that comes here because of the radio broadcast. So if I'm fishing for an hour, you'll see somebody come around and then take a picture with this. Or sometimes they walk around and they completely miss it, because at other times of the year, these bushes grow up so high that you can't see it from that side, and it kind of just blends in. Here it is. It's very cool. It's I don't know, I guess about 6 foot tall. It's very nice looking, ornately carved and very shiny. Now, the radio play was a dramatization of War of the Worlds, the book, which had been done by H.G. Wells, who did The Time Machine and a million other classic stories. He had his pipe there. And the radio broadcast was actually written by a guy named Howard Koch. You see his name right there. He wrote the script for the radio broadcast. Grover's Mill does not appear in the book. It only appears in the radio broadcast. And then when they made the movie in the 50s, they didn't put Grover's Mill. And then when they made the Tom Cruise movie, no Grover's Mill as well. Howard Koch, right there, was here for the unveiling of this sculpture. I think he was in his 90s. He passed away just a few years after that, in the mid-90s. But he was the guy who wrote the radio dramatization.
Joining us live from Grover's Mills is Douglas Forrester, chairman of the commemorative committee. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning.
I guess that's the monument we're seeing right there.
It certainly is.
What does it say?
We have a bronze monument which was sculpted by J. Warren, which is a fine example of what we're trying to portray here.
Now, I mentioned that sometimes I see people come over here and they don't look at that, they miss it. And I always go over and I'm like, hey, are you looking for the sculpture? Because they see these and say, well, I guess this is it. I don't know. Atlas Obscuria in Weird, New Jersey had something else. But this is a Boy Scout project that was put up many years ago, and it's still here. I love it. It has all of the quotes about the alien, tentacles and large as a bear and glistens like wet leather.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Carl Phillips again, out at the Wilmot Farm, Grover's Mill, New Jersey. Professor Pearson and myself made the 11 miles from Princeton in 10 minutes. Well, I hardly know where to begin. To paint for you a word picture of the strange scene before my eyes, like something out of a modern Arabian Nights. Well, I just got here. I haven't had a chance to look around yet. I guess that's it. Yes, I guess that's the thing directly in front of me, half buried in a vast pit. Must have struck with terrific force. The ground is covered with splinters of a tree. It must have struck on its way down.
This house, if you can see it through the trees, is one of the ones that would have been there at that time. It's one of the historic houses. Most of the houses in this area were built in the 70s and 80s. But here you go. Broadcast October 30th, 1938. We're going to be going right around the corner to the neighborhood I used to live in when I was growing up. Right around the corner, right over there, but it's not called Grover's Mill. That area of West Windsor is called Princeton Junction. So we're going to go over there. There's a very specific reason I want to show you my neighborhood having to do with this radio broadcast. So this is the house I grew up in. And the builder actually went bankrupt while they were building the house. So my parents had to move us to a couple different places. We lived with my grandparents in Princeton for a while, but eventually my dad finished most of this house and we moved in. It was a little smaller then. They've added an addition to it. My bedroom was right up there, which I shared with my brother Tom. And I used to play D&D with David, who lived over here, and then I played Atari with Justin up in the front bedroom there. I remember playing the E.T. game for hours. My friend Patrick lived over here. We used to always go into the woods back here. We'd turn over rocks and try to find snakes, and I think we found a turtle once. And it was a lot of fun. Very nice area to grow up in. My brother once turned over a wheelbarrow, and there was a skunk under it in the backyard, and that was quite a day. So the pond is right there. And the reason I take you here is not because I grew up here, but because this is Landing Lane. When my parents signed the contract for the house, this was called Martian Landing Lane. And then apparently not enough people were buying the houses, and the builder thought that maybe the name was turning them up. But this was going to be called Martian Landing Lane because we were living right down the street from where the Martians landed. And that's something you're only going to find on this channel, because I don't think anybody else even knows that, but there it is. I've gone around the corner, it's really close by, maybe half a mile away, but we're still in West Windsor. We're not in Grover's Mill, we're not in Princeton Junction. Now we're in Berrien City. That's where they've got this sculpture of this alien. It's got little, almost like minion eyeballs with goggles. It appears there was a plaque there, but the plaque is either worn off or been removed. It's in front of one of the fire stations. The fire department here has Marvin the Martian painted on all of the fire trucks, so that's always pretty cool to see. And this is the Princeton Junction Volunteer Fire Company #1. They've got the door open, so I think we can kind of peek in from the side here. We might be able to see, yeah, we could definitely see the Marvin the Martian on the side of this truck. So yeah, here is the Marvin the Martian on the side of their fire trucks, which is super cool. And look at this. War of the Worlds. All right, well, that was a lot of fun. Right now, a box is gonna pop up here and a box over here. You can choose either one, because I'm in both. I'll see you tomorrow at 2 o'clock. I'm gonna do something else. Brand new.